Richard Drew was confronted by a string of expletives in 1925 when he walked into an automobile paint shop. Oh, the torrent of words wasn't directed at him, but one of the workers was very disenchanted with what was happening. In those days, two-tone cars were very popular. Now, when you were painting a car, you had to mask one part of the car. And in those days, they used newspapers, because it had a clean edge, that they glued onto the part of the car that they didn't want painted. Well, it turned out that the newspaper didn't come off very easily, and this guy was swearing away. But this gave Drew an idea. He saw a business opportunity here to come up with something that would be better at masking the car than newspaper. So he went back to the lab at 3M because that's where he worked. In fact, he was selling sandpaper to the car painters. That's why he happened to be in the workshop. And he thought that by taking some brown paper and putting some glue on it, he could come up with a tape that would work better than the newspaper. He experimented with all kinds of adhesives and eventually found that rubber cement worked well. So he took a strip of brown paper, put two thin edges of glue on it, and went back to the workshop and told the guys to try it. And at first they were very happy with it. It worked well. But then they started to complain because this time the tape came off too easily. So they said to him, "Go back to your Scotch bosses and tell them to put an adequate amount of paint on this thing." Well, of course, this was in reference to the supposed Scots frugality. But anyway, that name stuck. They fixed the tape, they coated it evenly with glue, and of course, masking tape was born, still popular today. And then in the late 1920s, DuPont company introduced cellophane to North America. This had been invented by Jacques Brandenberger in France. And this was a clear plastic material, a film. Well, Drew now had the idea of using this material as a see-through tape. And he came up with a material that was made of thin strips of cellophane with glue on the back. And of course, it took years to determine exactly what kind of adhesive to use. But that, of course, was the birth of what came to be called Scotch tape. And it was introduced in 1929. It found immediate uses in households. I mean, you could repair all kinds of things with it. You could, if your hem unraveled, you could temporarily fix that. Gift wrapping, of course. I mean, all kinds of uses for a Scotch tape. There was one problem, though. If you lost the end of the tape, it would take a lot of action with your fingertips to try to find where that end was. Well, John Borden, who was a sales manager with 3M, rose to that challenge and came up with the dispenser. And that had teeth in it, and you would not lose the tape again. And eventually that was incorporated into the familiar plastic snail-like dispenser. And now we have Scotch tape for all kinds of uses. And that for today is our Cup of Joe. And I think by now I have spoken enough.